The summer of 2025 wasn't supposed to be like this. The air around Kensington Palace buzzed with an unusual kind of tension. Not the kind that comes with paparazzi or royal gossip, but something deeper, heavier. Behind those majestic gates and pristine hedges, Prince William sat at the center of a storm. And it wasn't about his brother this time. It was about a betrayal so personal it cracked the foundations of his family, and it all started with a stack of suspicious financial reports. The Duchy of Cornwall, that ancient estate worth over $1 billion, once managed with care by King Charles, had now become William's responsibility. As the Prince of Wales, he took pride in running it with integrity. But something was off. Expenses were ballooning without reason. Over-the-top invoices for things like villa renovations, lavish furniture refreshes, and garden restorations had raised red flags. William wasn't just reading numbers anymore, he was reading a pattern that pointed to one name again and again: Annabel Elliot, Queen Camilla's sister. It wasn't just one contract or two, it was a decade-long trail of direct awards with no public tenders, no oversight. Annabel, once a respected high society interior designer, had somehow become the default vendor for a massive chunk of the duchy's projects, raking in millions without scrutiny. To outsiders, it looked like business. To William, it looked like theft, cloaked in family ties. And that's where things got messy. William's relationship with Camilla had always been complicated. He really tried to accept her after Diana's death, to forgive, to move forward, to build some version of a family. But now, looking at those numbers, it felt like everything he had tried to protect was being eaten from the inside. And Camilla? She wasn't clueless. She was smart, calculated, and fiercely loyal to her sister. William knew this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about power, influence, control over the future of the monarchy. Camilla had spent years carefully positioning people, placing Annabel in the duchy, supporting the hiring of a manager known for his loyalty to her. And under Charles, who rarely questioned anything Camilla did, this quiet power structure grew unchecked. But William wasn't Charles. He didn't care for passive acceptance. And he sure as hell wasn't going to let the duchy, the lifeblood of the heir's income, be treated like a personal ATM for the queen's relatives. Still, he knew the cost of confrontation. Taking down Annabel would mean dragging Camilla into the spotlight. It meant shaking the already fragile family structure, possibly breaking it beyond repair. But the more he uncovered, the shell companies, the inflated bills, the blatant conflict of interest, the clearer it became. He had no choice. The turning point came when a routine audit revealed something chilling: deliberate sabotage. One of William's key restoration projects, the transformation of Losquatuil Castle into a public cultural hub, had been compromised. Cheap materials substituted under Annabel's direction, almost causing structural failure. It wasn't just corruption now, it was active sabotage. That's when William decided to stop playing defense. He went straight to the source. A private meeting. No palace aides. No cameras. Just him, Annabel, and one senior engineer as a silent witness. The confrontation was brutal. Annabel tried to lie, deflect, shift blame, but William came prepared with statements, logs, evidence, everything. He told her calmly but firmly, "This ends now." Annabel left that room without a word, but the war had just begun. Camilla wasn't going to take this lightly, and William knew it. But as he stood on the castle's balcony afterward, watching the sun sink over the Cornish hills, one thing became crystal clear. He wasn't just fighting for control, he was fighting for the soul of the monarchy itself. Camilla's reaction wasn't loud, it was quiet, calculated, controlled. The kind of stillness that makes a room feel colder the moment she enters. She sat alone in her study at Clarence House, her teacup untouched, her eyes locked on a copy of the financial report that now named her sister as the root of a royal scandal. Her fingers tapped slowly against the armrest of her chair as whispers from palace corridors reached her. William wasn't just cutting Annabel off, he was preparing to make it public. She wasn't shocked, she was furious. Annabel, on the other hand, was unraveling. Back at her estate in Dorset, the once polished designer who mingled with British aristocracy now paced her drawing room with a phone glued to her ear. Every call was the same: old clients backing out, social invitations rescinded, reporters swarming like vultures. She had spent 20 years building an image, collecting art, hosting elite fundraisers, playing the role of refined genius, and now she was being painted as a greedy leech. Camilla called her just before dawn, no greetings, just a command. "We need to act immediately." Annabelle, voice strained, tried to stay composed. "It's gonna ruin me, Camilla. Everything's collapsing." "What do we do?" Camilla's voice was firm, almost mechanical. "We hit back harder, leak something, question his own spending. Kensington, Amner Hall, security costs, twisted, paint him as a hypocrite." Annabelle hesitated. "Isn't that dangerous? That could backfire." Camilla snapped. "Everything is dangerous now. We either fight or we fade." Within days, rumors started to circle, quiet whispers in upper-class circles about William's excessive Kensington renovation budget. The figure ballooned in the gossip from $2 million 0 cents to $4,500,000 0 cents. And while nothing concrete reached the tabloids at first, the poison was already dripping. Doubt, once seeded, rose quickly in royal soil. But William wasn't caught off guard. His advisors had already flagged chatter online and among Duchy insiders. He knew the smear was coming, and he knew who was behind it, so he flipped the script. Instructed his team to prepare a full transparency release. Every expense, every invoice, every vendor involved in Kensington's updates made public. The documents showed fair market rates, eco-sustainable choices, and strict oversight. He even hosted a quiet press briefing inviting key journalists for a walkthrough of the residence. No drama, just facts. Commentators praised his openness. Headlines started to change tone. Prince William sets new standard for royal transparency. The strategy wasn't just effective, it was devastating. Camilla and Annabelle had hoped to trap him in hypocrisy. Instead, they exposed themselves. Back at Dorset, Annabelle watched the coverage with growing horror. Her name was now synonymous with cronyism. Old society friends ghosted her. Business contacts disappeared overnight. Even charities she'd once designed for quietly removed her name from plaques and brochures. The final blow came when a trusted engineer, once loyal to her, turned over a stack of work logs to William's team. It showed direct instructions from Annabelle to alter materials on the Lost with Wheel project. That was enough for the Duchy Council to act. An emergency meeting was called. The council, typically a ceremonial group, now held real weight under William's reform agenda. They reviewed the evidence, verified the misconduct, and made it official. All contracts with Annabelle Elliott were permanently terminated. Her name was blacklisted from future royal projects. It wasn't just a firing, it was an excommunication. The headlines were brutal. Camilla's sister ousted, nepotism ends in royal firestorm. But the most telling moment came when a poll in the Telegraph showed 68% of Britons supported William's decision, even among older royalists. For the first time in decades, the monarchy didn't just look different, it felt different. The day of reckoning arrived, wrapped in royal pageantry. Westminster's Grand Hall was packed with flashing cameras, clicking pens, and a thick undercurrent of anticipation. Reporters from across the globe stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes fixed on the stage where Prince William would step forward, not just as a future king, but as the man who just shattered decades of unspoken royal protections. He walked in wearing a crisp navy suit, shoulders squared, jaw set. His expression was serious but not angry, a face hardened by conflict, softened only slightly by purpose. In front of him lay the newly completed 2025 Royal Financial Report. It didn't just include income figures, it documented change. Pages and pages of restructured budgets, transparent bidding processes, and, most critically, the official termination of all contracts involving Annabelle Elliott. With calm clarity, William spoke into the microphone. Going forward, all Duchy of Cornwall projects will adhere to public tender processes, no exceptions. We will no longer allow legacy connections to override accountability. Effective immediately, Mrs. Annabelle Elliott will no longer be associated with any royal estate projects. Gasps rippled through the room. He didn't say it with venom. He didn't have to. The message rang louder than outrage. The monarchy was entering a new age. And no one, not even the Queen's sister, was above the rules. Camilla sat in the honorary row, her face composed but stiff, lips pressed into a line that could have cut glass. Her hands were clenched in her lap, nails digging into her palm beneath her gloves. The blow was not just public, it was surgical. Years of maneuvering, favors, and quiet influence gone with a single sentence. Next to her, an empty seat had been reserved for Annabelle. She never showed up. Back in Dorset, Annabelle sat curled on a couch, the TV flickering in front of her like a ghost. Her name now trended for all the wrong reasons. She wasn't seen as a victim. She was the face of royal greed. Photos of her extravagant villa, designer outfits, and contract payouts filled tabloid covers. Even former allies in the press were distancing themselves. She gave one interview, a brief, shaky statement outside her estate. "I only ever wanted to help. I gave my life to those properties. This wasn't how it was supposed to end." But the narrative had already slipped beyond her control. High society, once her playground, shut its doors. Invitations stopped. Foundations quietly dropped her name from gala committees. And in whispered corners of Mayfair dinner parties, her downfall became a cautionary tale. Not even Camilla could shield her now. The Queen retreated behind carefully crafted public appearances, smiling at ribbon cuttings, attending charity luncheons, but the fire in her eyes never faded. At home, her relationship with Charles turned cold. He avoided confrontation, but she could feel the silent judgment. The weight of it hung in the air between them. At night, she would stand at the window of Clarence's house, staring out into the lights of London, wondering how the boy she once tried to win over had grown into the man who dismantled her entire influence. Meanwhile, William didn't gloat, he worked. Weeks later, at a ribbon-cutting event in Cornwall, he opened a new environmental center, built with fully transparent, publicly audited funds. Locals cheered, children waved Union Jacks, and in front of a crowd of thousands, Kate stood by his side, beaming with pride. A little girl handed William a hand-drawn picture of the castle he had saved. He knelt down, smiled, and said, "We're building it for you." No scandals, no secrets, just a promise. Back in London, whispers continued. Tension still simmered between Clarence's house and Kensington, but a shift had begun. The monarchy was changing, not through declarations or decrees, but through choices, one bold choice at a time.